Hello out there, and thanks for joining. This is Kevin Tate from Rigado. Very excited that you've joined us for today's webinar. And I have to say, yesterday I reset my password, and I had to go into my spam folder to see if that's where the reset email had gone. And my spam folder was literally full of webinar invitations. So I realize how many people are vying for your time these days. We really appreciate you spending some time with us and joining us for today's webinar on safe workplace reentry, which is even more exciting than our usual webinar because we're joined by Trev O'Brien from Pointr. Very excited to talk about what Pointr is up to today and how Rigado and Pointr come together to offer a comprehensive set of safe workplace solutions. With us also is Steve Garetta, who's going to be helping out with the Q&A and as questions come in over chat. Let me do just a quick tech check. Can you see us okay, Steve? Do we sound good?
Sound good, look good. Yeah, we're ready to go.
All right, let's do it. So over the next 30 minutes or so, we'll make sure we leave time for questions at the end. Here's what we're going to talk about. I'll do a quick mention on Rigado, what we do and how we do it, and then zoom into what we've been talking with companies about and rolling out solutions for around safe workplace data. And particularly, there's some areas there around occupancy and cleaning and safety signage that we're finding really useful as companies put together these programs. And then I'm going to hand the ball to Pointr. And Pointr and Rigado met one another because we were working with some of the same solution partners and same customers to provide different aspects of these safe workplace solutions. And so we've created a complementary approach that leverages both our technologies, and Pointr will talk about how they address things like contact tracing, congestion monitoring, and wayfinding. And I believe Trev's even got a demo. So extra kudos to Trevain for being willing to do a live demo. All right, with that, diving in. A few words about Rigado. Rigado creates sensor networks that gather real-time data from commercial spaces. So we're putting together wireless devices and gateways to gather data around things like occupancy and activity from buildings and stores and restaurants and offices. And you can see some of the spaces that we work in below. We couldn't do this without a ton of technology partners. So we're often working with systems integrators, with smart workplace, smart office solutions, and the like. So that's a bit about what we do. If you put that onto a solution diagram, our gateway, which is the thing you see there in the middle, is connecting with all kinds of different sensors and devices and data sources in a given environment. It's connecting to those devices, processing that data, and delivering it wherever it needs to go in the cloud. And quite often, that's a cloud platform like Azure or AWS or IBM. But it might also be directly to enterprise applications that have their own data models and are using those for reporting and analysis. And importantly, we also integrate with point solutions. So things that might be like camera systems or employee workplace applications where we can help to integrate and trade data among those applications and the clouds they integrate with. And we'll talk about that in the context of Pointr. A little bit about how we do it. We approach this infrastructure as a service. So for us, the gateways, the software running on the gateways, and the monitoring and secure updating of those gateways to keep them safe in the field are all part of how Rigado delivers that value. So let's talk about smart workplace and its shift towards safe workplace. We've been working in the smart office environment and the commercial real estate environment for quite some time. And up until very recently, the focus for our technology and for the data that we're providing is things like experience and convenience, understanding how spaces are used, providing a level of personalization and ultimately automation around smart environments. And as we've all seen, there's been a big shift in not so much the technology, but more the way that technology is being applied to a safe workplace environment or safe workplace program. So some of the things that we've been hearing from customers are most focused on, obviously, employee and guest safety, understanding how spaces are being used, not so much for utilization optimization, but more for planning and especially for cleaning and understanding when cleaning has occurred, when it needs to occur, and how to communicate that. And that communication and creating a sense of confidence among employees and guests and visitors and customers is a really important part of this equation, as is, of course, reporting and making sure that we can provide the data that allows companies to stay in compliance and report on what's most important about the safe workplace. So this has literally been the crux of every conversation we've had over the last 2.5, 3 months. And some of what we're hearing in terms of priorities and systems is quite consistent. So first, when it comes to employee and guest safety, we're hearing companies interested in bringing in these types of technologies. How do we use mobile apps, people counters, and imaging? How do we leverage occupancy sensors and perhaps badges for employees and guests to make sure we understand what's going on with the people? And then on the cleaning services side, there's a set of similar technologies that give us insight into what's going on with the space itself and how we can tie cleaning activity back to key areas like restrooms and conference rooms and common areas and desks. And then one of the more kind of recent pieces that we've brought into the equation has been dynamic signage. And this came out of some work actually that we have been doing in the retail space with electronic shelf labels, and now realizing that we can use these low cost, flexible Bluetooth-based displays to let people know this area has been cleaned, this area is reserved, you need to know this area is occupied, and it's not safe to go there right now. So that's become a really interesting part of that employee communication piece. And from Rigado's perspective, as the infrastructure and the data integrator, we've created this architecture landscape for that safe workplace. So there's all kinds of different devices and sensors and systems that we can bring into the mix, and creating recipes around that data and the safe workplace use cases that are most important, especially as companies look for this initial reentry. And Pointr is a really important part of that. So when you look at this landscape, some of the devices I talked about, one of the most important is what's going on with employees and their mobile applications and what they're doing on their phones before, during, and after they enter that workplace. So that's where we're excited to bring our capabilities around data integration and capture together with Pointr's and create an even richer source of data and integration. A couple of the recipes that have been, I think, most of interest with companies that we've been talking about the last few weeks. One is understanding occupancy and usage around conference rooms and desks. And so in a recipe like that one, we would bring occupancy sensors and desk presence sensors to bear on information about real-time usage, what desks are occupied, what desks are available, how does that compare to the ones that were reserved through the employee application, and then using that signage for status display. Again, trying to create confidence. Hey, this desk was cleaned at 8:45 this morning and it's been reserved for you. That's the kind of thing we're hearing employees want to see as they return to the workplace. And then another very popular recipe has been around restroom monitoring. So similar things when it comes to occupancy and measurement of the space, but then being able to add in badges for cleaning staff or facility staff and tags on equipment so that we can understand when cleaning took place in a restroom and how long that cleaning took place for, and then be able to report on that. And again, not only communicate about that to staff and the team, but also report on that so we get a sense for compliance. And this brings up a good point of intersection with Pointr. So as you'll see, they have the ability to create some really interesting reports around movement in the workplace and employee activity based on the mobile app. And we're able to, through the use of our gateways, integrate with Pointr and extend that capability to badges and tags for staff and equipment. So you get the kind of holistic picture of what's going on with employees as well as guests and facilities management staff and equipment. Ultimately, this is about creating what we call dashboard ready data. So, here's an example of the kind of report that our customers can put together in this case, Power BI, trying to create a single pane of glass around occupancy and utilization, what's going on with a particular space, and what's the history around utilization and cleaning. And of course, driving alerts and workflow. A lot of this is creating a responsive environment so that teams can understand when something needs attention, when an employee or a customer is in need of help, and making sure that those are responded to. It's really a different type of workflow from what had gone on in spaces in some cases. So creating that dashboard ready data is what allows us to serve systems like Pointr, and some of what you're going to see from Trev. Ultimately, the sort of secret sauce, if you will, and being able to do that is something we call Edge Connect. That's an edge framework that runs on our gateways, and it handles that connection to wireless devices, the processing of the data, and that secure integration with the cloud. And ultimately, that is what's integrated with Pointr in this case, and providing, again, those additional data sources, but also the ability to integrate tightly with things like their wayfinding systems. So with that, I want to turn it over to Trev at Pointr and have him talk about their WorkSafe solutions.
Cheers, Kevin. Thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to present and talk to everyone about Pointr WorkSafe. Let me just share my screen. Cool. Kevin, you can see my screen?
I can. It looks good. Yep, there we go.
Fantastic. So hi, everyone. I'm Trevor O'Brien. I'm the head of partnerships at Pointr. I'm here to talk to you about Pointr WorkSafe. It's very relevant, as you know, with being able to support employees back to the workplace, which could be a factory or their building which they need to return to. So we're going to deeper dive around what that means and how our experience has been applied to be able to support this. But to understand, to give you an idea of who we are and what we specialize in, is we specialize in indoor location services. So, some of you may know what indoor location services is, but it could range from that blue dot that you see on a map to understanding how people are moving within those workspaces or those factories, for example, which I'll show you shortly. But we are a technology first business. All we want to do and all we love is indoor location services, both app and app free. Some of the logos that you see here, we're guiding people to to the gate on time with United Airlines at Chicago Airport, or we're working with KPMG and their employees to be able to share location between employees at their corporate head offices, or being able to guide them to their meeting rooms for their next meeting, or understanding how people are moving within production plants. So anything to do with the location, both app and app free, is us. The key sectors that we find ourselves in is mainly workplace, but we are in department stores, we're in airports, we're working with airlines, we're working with those large multinationals who may have factories, but the main driver, especially right now, is the workplace. And so, us as a business, we are supporting a number of our customers globally, and we are very partner focused, and that's why we love the partnership with Rigado, is that we are hardware and software agnostic, and so partners such as Rigado and us are a great combination to support both of our customers in the challenges or use cases that we'll support there. And so in recent weeks, because of our specialization in indoor location services, we've had a lot of our customers come to us and gone, right, you guys know Bluetooth, those large indoor spaces, you have the patents around the location services technology. How can you help us? And so, day in, day out, we're discovering new use cases around how we can actually get people back to the workplace. And so these are the pillars, and what we're finding and what we're supporting our customers with, and as well as Rigado customers, is who is coming into contact with who, right? I'm in my workplace and I need to understand, well, as an employer and as an employee, but mainly on the employer side, is right, I need to understand how people are interacting within my space. So that's when the likes of contact tracing comes into effect, which we'll talk about in a moment. a number of businesses and multinationals are coming to us, and they have global corporate campuses, and they have no idea how many people are at that particular site at any point in time. So understanding, real-time insights based on occupancy, combined with the Rigado kit. And congestion, if you start to think about, cafeteria spaces, everyone's going to lunch at the same time, for example, making real-time decisions based on how people are congregating and using that space. Cleaning is, in recent days for us has come up quite a bit of, from a compliance point of view, where are my cleaners going within that space? Because there's strict, cleaning regimes that have come into effect for the obvious reasons. As well as efficiency as well. So you think about those, those customers who have, multiple offices, globally, and being able to understand, on an overview of what those cleaners are up to and doing is quite important for our customers. And then the navigation component of getting people from point A to point B within that building, that campus, that warehouse, and guiding them away from a particular zone that might be shut down. And the overall piece is, we're hearing that production plants are having to be shut down, or corporate offices have to be shut due to infection and things like that for the obvious reasons. So, you might identify some other challenges, and every day we're identifying more and more use cases, but these are the main ones that our customers are, coming to us. And so from this, we've gone to market with Pointr WorkSafe, with our expertise in deep location. We do call ourselves a deep location company. And so, pre-COVID, this is the foundation of the technology in which we have built Pointr WorkSafe on, is location-based services, ranging from that blue dot, that map within that app that you might see at, within the United Airlines application, and that blue dot that is guiding people to gates on visitors to gates on time, and then analytics in terms of understanding how people are moving within that space, and then engagement, being able to engage with employees, by sending push notifications with accuracy. And so these three modules are powered by Bluetooth Low Energy sensors that can be found in the Rigado kit, or they might be within smart lighting or access points, for example. So, this is the underlying technology in which we've built Pointr WorkSafe on, which I'll walk you through in a moment, which is powered by the Pointr Deep Location platform. The sectors at the moment in recent weeks that are coming to us for Pointr WorkSafe, as you can see, the three sectors ranging from warehouses to construction to offices. We're discovering more and more every day where, how can we support, employees that could range from going to the office to the warehouse, because my employer does distribution. So, the employers in these sectors are wanting to make it aware or known to their employees and how they can be supported with the Pointr WorkSafe product. Before we deep dive into the actual Pointr WorkSafe product, this is what we're offering and offering our customers as of today. Is the standard package on the left-hand side is, that contact tracing, that device to device interaction, the check-in, check-out of people arriving within a building and understanding who's actually come on site without having to deep dive within access identity controls and things like that. Occupancy manager at the GPS level. So, our customers are asking, what can you give us now? What can you give us tomorrow? And so on the left-hand side there being standard is a mobile application called Pointr WorkSafe. And then on the right-hand side being the WorkSafe Plus solution is leveraging our Bluetooth expertise and technology around, providing that deeper location of analytics. So, if we're looking at zonal-based information, the wayfinding, getting people from point A to point B is all leveraging the Bluetooth technology, as well as the creation of a map and taking a CAD drawing and embedding that within a mobile app. So both of these offerings for Pointr WorkSafe are available as a mobile app, as well as an SDK. So there might be some customers out there who already have a mobile application. And so us as a business are very much, we love APIs and SDKs. That's our bread and butter. So, we love to ship an SDK and to be able to support an existing mobile app if that is required. Now, the hot topic, contact tracing, you can see globally the race is on being able to support both citizens and employees with contact tracing. And so we have the ability to support the employer and the employees with contact tracing. So measuring that device interaction between employees within the environment. It's activated at the venue level. So the moment that someone enters a zone or we call it a geofence, which is a zone that could be a building site or a corporate campus, the mobile app will actually turn on, which I'll show you in a moment. But measuring the average duration of how people are interacting within that space is quite important. So the solution is designed for the employer, but we want to give insights to the employee, as you can see here on the right-hand side. It is effortless to set up. There's no infrastructure required for contact tracing. And so it is anonymized, which I'll show you how it works in a moment. So how it works is we deploy a mobile application to an organization which they will then distribute to their employees. Mind you that this mobile application is iOS and Android and can be deployed to Honeywell devices, for example, if they might be within a warehouse environment. And then what we do is we create a pointer ID or a device ID that is anonymized and not capturing that personal identifiable information. So, an employer will have a list of pointer IDs, or me, for example, I'll show you in a minute, my pointer ID is then being able to be pushed to a dashboard that is made available to the employer so that, let's say, an employer needs to understand, right, I'm LO1354, who have I actually come into contact with around me of a series of IDs. So we're not asking for that personal identifiable information as well. In terms of the occupancy manager side of it, we are actually capturing at the GPS level, as I mentioned, at the site level of how many people are at a corporate campus or a building. But if we want to look at that deeper analytics of where people are actually entering meeting rooms or conference centers on site, for example, we can actually track that live and in real time, leveraging the Bluetooth Low Energy infrastructure that we support. And even being able to do multi-floor is quite important, and having real-time insights of where people are moving is quite key for us to be able to support. So before I move into the actual dashboard for Occupancy Manager, I'll show you the mobile application and what that looks like for you. Just give me one moment.
And Trev, while you're bringing that up, we're getting some great questions in the chat. If you can do me a favor and paste those over to the Q&A, then we can make sure that we get to those here at the end. I want to make sure we don't miss any in the chat. Thanks very much.
So in terms of going back to the mobile application, the Pointr WorkSafe, you can see here that, if I'm an employee and I'm seeing, right, what do I have actually in my hands? I have the ability to actually automatically run contact tracing and all the services that we provide within Pointr WorkSafe in the background automatically. When I actually enter my corporate campus on arrival, this will then activate and go online. I have the control to be able to keep online if I always want to keep it running in the background. That's entirely up to you if you want to do that. And then keep offline as well. So we need to empower the employees and give them control, but it is a case-by-case basis with employers on what they would like to enforce or give the flexibility to their employees. But the idea is understanding how many device interactions I've had, the activity in terms of what's happened on a daily basis and how long those actual interactions have happened throughout me working on that corporate campus or that building level. And then the device ID that I mentioned. So, there's no personal identifiable information. This is anonymous based ID that we're doing there that I would then copy and then notify my employer that, right, I've been infected. I need to notify, can you please notify anyone who I may have come into contact with? And so from an app side of point of view, this is lightweight that we would ship to an organization for an employee to use in their hands. And as well as taking consideration, I might be traveling between corporate campuses or offices. The same goes if I need to walk on site to another office location that I don't usually go to. The automatic feature will be able to support that too. So moving on in terms of the actual dashboard itself. Bear with me.
That looks good, Trev.
Cool. So in terms of the overall dashboard of what an employer would see, let's say if I'm an actual organization and I have multiple offices globally, you'll be able to see that I have a Boston, London, SFO and UK head offices on the left-hand side. They might be factories deployed around the world. And then you can see a legend here on the dashboard in terms of what's overcrowded, what's above limit at the moment. So we have the ability to be able to set thresholds at the GPS level as well as the Bluetooth level of, right, there's currently 90 unique devices on site right now. It's exceeded by 10 people. The number of interactions, there's been 25 interactions at that particular office. And so this is providing real-time insights across all my buildings or my factories at any point in time. So you can see here in the left-hand side that Boston, there's obviously, I've set a threshold, we've exceeded it, we need to do something about it. Or my London office, you know, we're starting to hit that threshold purely based on the limit that I've set. So for example, if I take the Boston office, what we do is we create a geofence around that particular building on a map itself. And then every time that that app is moving across that geofence, and you would have noticed that that auto feature that I mentioned earlier, that will then start to capture data accordingly. If it wants to do it. 1 second. Bear with me, guys. So you can see here the amount of devices currently at the moment that have gone onto that site. So you can see here the device ID that's being captured. So this is the pointer ID that's been assigned that I mentioned earlier on the mobile device. It's currently offline at the moment. The number of interactions that's happened. So this is our demo instance, just to put it out there. The average interaction duration that's actually occurred. When did that person actually come on site? So, and I'm able to actually download these interactions. And don't forget, you know, we have this available via an SDK and API that can be made available if we need to pipe this data into other tool sets. And then also the last activity time or where they might have been on site or the interaction. And then being able to send push notifications too is quite important. So being able to notify, look, hey, you're currently offline at the moment. I will then send a push notification to the mobile device there accordingly. So hopefully that gives an overview if this was a Boston office of what you would actually see. And then, you know, if I'm looking at that overall global deployment and needing real-time insights in terms of the occupancy level, that is quite important for us to be able to, as an employer, make real-time decisions accordingly. In terms of what else we do, congestion supervisor, so being able to identify on a map where the areas that might be congested, which I touched on in real-time data that we can be able to support there with congestion supervisor. The cleaning monitor, as I mentioned, understanding that path replay or where someone has gone as a cleaner within that corporate head offices to make, you know, to timestamp even of making sure that they are cleaning a particular zone. Or they're, you know, being able to honor their actual shifts that might be assigned to them. And then mobile wayfinding. So this is, you know, one of the foundations in which we operate in for our technology is that blue dot that you can see on a mobile map, providing that turn-by-turn navigation. We're able to get, you know, that 1 to 3 meters accuracy to be able to support that blue dot. And so being able to do the multi-floor as well. So if I'm moving between level 4 to level 5 is really important, because you need the real accurate data to be able to navigate people away from a particular zone on site. And so, yeah, I think that's leaves me in terms of questions, Kevin, based on what we've seen there today.
Great. Thanks so much, Trev. Let me go back to sharing my screen here. And that was excellent. And again, kudos for the live demo. Always very impressive on the webinar. Thank you very much. So hopefully that gives you a sense for, and let's see if my screen will go back to sharing. There we go. Hopefully that gives you a sense for how those two pieces come together. So Pointr's ability to handle that employee interaction in the mobile app, using GPS and their deep location platform to understand what's going on with the employees. And then Rigado's ability to integrate with a wide variety of sensors and devices, including the Pointr applications, to give you a view of what's going on in the broader context. At that, let's switch to questions. And I want to make sure we get to some of the great questions that had come in the chat. So Steve, you want to help us talk through those?
Yeah, some great questions, and we've been answering some of them. One came up around customers, asking about customers that have deployed the solution. I think specifically the Pointr Safe Workplace. Do you have some examples there, Trev, that you could share?
Not publicly, but we do, obviously on our website, you'll be able to see the logos of the customers that we currently work with. So we do have deployments that are currently out there for our customers. In terms of naming them, I can't publicly, but you can have an idea based on our website with the current logos at the moment. But we need to understand that contact tracing is something that is new to market. Everything else around our location services is not. So contact tracing is being developed out real time, like all the governments currently and other companies in market, but we do have the ability to be able to support our customers with contact tracing. So within our SDKs, we've just created a wrapper with a UI with Pointr WorkSafe. So what we're doing isn't new, but the contact tracing component is, and that's what we've decided to support our customers with.
Yeah, that's a good point. And to underscore how we're seeing that in our customer discussions, while the technology that we're showing here is what we've both been doing for quite some time, obviously the focus on safe workplaces is a bit new, but so are the recipes that people are looking to create around this. And one of the things that really stands out to me, and in the probably 10 conversations we've had with customers just this week around it, is they're each a little different in terms of what people are looking to understand about the space, what constitutes a compliance concern or an alert, and the way that they're looking to gather and use that data. And so one of the things I really like about this integration, the way we're both approaching it, is that we can accommodate those different recipes really on a customer by customer basis, but using the same underlying technology and the same technology we've been using for years. So we're finding that really helpful.
Another topic that's come up, I think people were curious about the no infrastructure and the hybrid that has some infrastructure in it that does multiple use cases. Maybe both of you could comment, Trevor, first on how quickly someone can get started with that, going with just the app, and then what's the typical time to market if they want to go with the additional use cases and some more beacon and gateway infrastructure?
Very good question. So the Pointr WorkSafe standard package that we're deploying is leveraging GPS technology, which is nothing new, right? But the contact tracing is. So the speed to market, we can deploy within days in terms of on the standard side. So we're shipping a mobile application for the actual employer and the employees. And we're leveraging existing mapping technology on that front. We'll provision a dashboard that is hosted by Microsoft Azure, or we can also deploy that onto the customer's tenant if they request. So in terms of the standard side, we're talking days. The Pointr Plus component is dependent on the scope. You know, we have some of our customers asking us, right, we've got 30 offices to 5 offices. What's required there is being able to deploy Bluetooth infrastructure. So if we're leveraging the Rigado kit, you know, we need to ship it, we need to install it, we need to configure it, or it might be battery powered beacons. So we're talking weeks, you know, within let's say 2 weeks would be the target time, but it's all subject to in terms of how many sites are installing that infrastructure. So there's one component is the infrastructure, and then there's taking the mapping. So taking a CAD drawing and then converting that to an actual map, dependent on how many sites that are actually, that we have to map accordingly is required. So, you know, let's say if we're looking at the one corporate office, you know, to deliver, it could be a couple of weeks. So it really comes down to the scope of the project. So there might already be Bluetooth infrastructure. So there might be a Rigado customer and they've already got the infrastructure available. That's cloud managed. We can tap into that. And all we're doing is creating a map. And the customer might already have a map as well. So it's subject to the requirements, but we're talking weeks, not months, not years. But it all comes down to the project side and the plus. But on the standard, we can deploy a mobile app now with contact tracing and with the GPS-based occupancy.
Thanks, Trev. And from the Rigado side, you know, we've done the integration with the Pointr application and also with the beacons and devices that we can extend the WorkSafe application with. So that's all done. And then what we're able to send is effectively a kit to a workplace, so you can outfit a floor or a building or an office in typically a matter of hours. So all the sensors and badges and tags that we're talking about here are peel and stick and plug and play, which we found is really, really key. It's also worth noting for a lot of these fast deployments that we're talking with customers about, they're using the LTE versions of our gateways, so they don't have to worry about running power over Ethernet or figuring out how to get inside drop ceilings for that initial deployment. Although some may do that down the road, being able to send a kit with peel and stick these sensors and plug in these gateways, and data is flowing right up into Pointr in your dashboard.
That's great. So it sounds really easy to get started. I did recognize some names in the attendees of some Rigado customers. So nice to know that they can quickly start extending their investment to add Pointr. We had a nice question come in around how are employers ensuring that their employees really opt into this and keep their phones charged, keep Bluetooth open, location services. Any tips or tricks there, Trev, that you see employers using to make sure that they get everybody engaged?
Very good question. I think it comes down to region and country for, you know, compliance and privacy laws and local culture. But, you know, what we're seeing organizations do is we're giving you a tool to be able to show that we actually are implementing something about your safety when returning to work. So that messaging that there is a tool there for you to use for your benefit, and that, you know, being able to push that message that the data that we're capturing is anonymized. There's no employee information or names being captured on that. So I think, you know, it comes down to the organization and their corporate culture and their own messaging, but, you know, being able to push that we have a tool to support you, and it's something there, and it's data that's being applied to make real-time insights, and not just saying, hey, go back to the office and get to work. No, it's, hey, go back to the office with Pointr WorkSafe, because us as an employer can make real-time decisions that will benefit you and the rest of the workforce within that environment. So yeah, I think it's the toolbox approach is what we're kind of, but it comes down to the local region and country and their views of data privacy.
Yeah, and you touched on an important point there, I think, too, around employees wanting access to that data and to see the results of these efforts. So, and I say that because in nearly all of these conversations, when we're talking about gathering and presenting data around something like the cleaning history for a conference room or a desk area or a restroom, the questions are, how do I capture that data and present it to my facilities and my administrative team? And then how can I present it to employees, whether that's through the app or through signage, so that they're able to be confident that they're getting a really transparent picture of all that's being done to make that space safe.
And I think just to touch on that point as well, is that, you know, if a warehouse or a building has to shut down for 3 days due to cleaning, then that affects me as an employee, that I might not get paid because we've had business interruption, for example, too. So it's that business continuity that we're enabling to be able to support that, you know, right, we don't need to shut down a whole area or a campus because we had that real-time accurate data to be able to make those decisions as well.
That's great, guys. So save the toughest question for last from the chat. Will you share the slides?
Oh, a stumper. Yeah, we will. And in fact, we'll have the recording available just as soon as it's processed in the cloud. So I'll be sending a note out with a link to the recording. It looked like maybe one more snuck in there. Did I?
Yeah, let's hit that one. This is a good one. Have you been able to install this in a hospital or a clinic? Or I guess, could it be in a hospital or clinic if not yet?
It's a very good question. We do have hospital customers that have asked us about how can we support that environment. We do have plans soon to be able to support visitors, not employees, but I'll allow the team to be able to share that, you know, news when we can make it available. But we are being asked about that daily. I think the focus for us is the workplace and getting back to work, but visitors is something that is quite interesting, that's coming up a lot for us at the moment. So we'll be able to share more news soon about that.
Oh, that's interesting. And on the Rigado side, our infrastructure is deployed in hospitals and treatment centers, typically for asset tracking and monitoring, but also patient monitoring. So Bluetooth-based temperature sensors that give real-time updates around ICU patients. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting environment for monitoring, obviously. Anything else, Steve?
I think that's it. I think we hit them all.
All right. Well, thanks again, everyone, for your time today. Thank you, Trev, for joining us. Great. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.